Okay, gang, thank you to BitGo for sponsoring this edition of the Baer Faxt Live. BitGo is the preferred security and operational backbone for more than 1,500, that seems like a lot, institutional clients in 50 countries, probably even more by the time we're speaking. They offer custody, wallets, staking, trading, financing, and more. So here we are, the Baer Faxt Live from the scene of our very first Baer Faxt Live a year ago in Miami Beach. We're joined by the new director, Bridget Finn. It's like, by the way, if you didn't read about her in the Wall Street Journal article, it was awesome. So you're in. How's it feel on the floor out there now?
Feels great. Feels great. Very active. There is levity in the halls, and we are very excited to be welcoming people.
Now, VIPs, like, what is a VIP these days?
Yes, what is a VIP? Well, a VIP is a collector who, in terms of first choice, we have a whole team who really sets in place how these things are measured, who comes at what time and with what level of card. And we rely very heavily on their expertise to make those judgment calls in terms of day one and day two of the show.
And the reason I asked you that is to have a different seat, having been a dealer for so long, the things that you didn't quite understand about how these art fairs work and now have a better sense of it. That simple question. What has surprised you?
Well, in terms of the VIP, the VIP rollout, one thing I did not know was that the biggest contingency of VIPs that come through our doors are designated by the galleries. So that is something that I always try to tell galleries when they're, preparing for Art Basel Miami Beach. Make sure you spend time on that the principal should see it, to really think through, who is someone who would appreciate this, who would like to come, who's been an active client of ours this year, who we think would gain something from this experience, and would be actively collecting on site at the show. And so most of the designations come from the gals.
And I think most people assume it's the fair that's making this list of people, because they're all calling you at the last minute. It's like, Bridget, I need 22 VIP cards.
And I love you all. We want so much to accommodate everyone, but we also have a real, the honest truth is that we have an obligation to the galleries to make sure that the people who are on the show floor in the first few hours of the show are buyers who are there to support their programs.
Well, when you talk about the obligation, I think it's always interesting that you're servicing basically three groups. You're servicing the galleries as your main clients, right? You're serving two audiences, the VIP, some of us call them very irritating people, but that's another story. The general public that's coming in, and your shareholders. How do you balance all those different functions?
I mean, I've spent a lot of time thinking about that over the last, year and change, really about the different stakeholders that make up the fair goers and what their individual experiences are like and how to elevate those experiences. So there are really so many publics, because even within a collecting community or an arts loving community, you have different, there are different ways in which people collect at different levels. There are different publics, we have anything from, of course, we have families and friend groups that come, but we also, we bring student groups in, and so all of them have a different need from the show. So trying to find a balance there is really important to me.
And by the way, one of our colleagues loves the kids program for some of the fairs, to put your little one.
Yes.
It's an underknown, underused.
Absolutely. Shout out to Debbie Spiegelman, who does an incredible job on Art Kids every year.
So now, as a dealer, maybe let our audience that doesn't know your story, sort of the quick background to how you got here.
Yeah, happy to. So I my background is an art dealer. So
man, I used to be one too. So I know where you're coming from.
Yeah, and I think it's a great departure point. For me, it's been super helpful. My most recent post was a gallery that I ran with another woman, Therese Reyes, that Reyes Finn Gallery, which was in Corktown, Detroit, which we had for 7 years, which was an honor and a pleasure. And prior to that, I ran the contemporary program at Mitchell Innes and Nash in New York.
Now, working both in a, I guess you might say, provincial setting of New York and like an urban setting like Detroit area, how has that informed such a global scene as an international art fair?
Yeah, well, I think, a lot of what pushed me to go to Detroit was to think about, having a gallery with an international presence operating in a place that may be conceived of as a non-art center, right? And how it would function differently and things we could do to both engage on the local or truly local level. And then also really, we were ambitious. So we were applying for Art Basel Miami Beach right out of the gate. And so figuring out the synergy between those things, I think, has absolutely informed my approach to the fair and building, the diversifying the regional locations and places that show at this fair is important.
Well, let's go a step deeper. I mean, the stakes for a gallery outside of New York or London, whether it's in, Santa Fe or Detroit, of getting into the major fair is so significant, where it can be, I've read, sometimes up to 80% of their revenue for the year. Mm-hmm. How's that informed your relationship to understanding it, having worked for top New York gallery? They miss 1 year, it's like, it sucks, but it's not like as critical.
Yeah, I think it is true in a way that Miami is such a high stakes fair because the booths are big, the galleries really, honestly, at this point, coming from anywhere, you are really committing. And, if the trip is short or it's far, it's still expensive, right? So I don't want to downplay that because I do think that we owe it to our galleries to work very, very hard to deliver, the right platform for their success. So I think, in terms of my own experience, I did positions twice when we had Reyes Finn. And it was great for us because, yes, it was important for us to be here and make sales and meet new people. That was huge. But it was also really important for Detroit. It was the first time a Detroit gallery had participated in Art Basel Miami Beach. And so for Detroit, that hometown hero feeling with the collectors there, that was really valuable to them. And I think it created kind of a greater understanding of our place in the world, which was important and significant.
And then there's pressure as a local fair. It's like, well, why aren't there like every gallery in Miami here? And that's, you talked about that, I think, in recent articles. That's an internal pressure, but it's also a sort of a local pressure of government. It's like, we're spending all this money to sponsor it, and you can argue, well, there's a zillion of tax dollars coming in, but what about Miami? It's like, how do you deal with that? That must be very
I just
fragile.
try to be very honest.
This is the art world. What do you mean honest?
I love the Miami galleries, and I feel like the scene is growing rapidly. A La Pata is, where the Rubella Museum is located. It's just flush with interesting young programs. And a lot of those galleries aren't yet applying for Art Basel Miami Beach, or, but I encourage them to, and I hope they will. And I think there's plenty of room for more participation from the region. We want that. We encourage it. We're very proud to have the 5 gals that we have doing the show this year. And, I think that yeah, and I said in the article, I'll say it now, it's not a race. We also want to make sure that when people get to the Miami Beach Convention Center, that they're ready, that that this is the time for them to be doing this show. The satellite fairs, there's so many great ones in Miami, as we know, and they do serve a purpose. And so I think, there are a lot of Miami galleries doing shows at this time, and we're very happy to be hosting 5 of them, and there is room for us to host more.
Now, have you applied when you were running your gallery to fairs and got rejected?
I was waiting listed for positions.
Oh
yeah.
man, so doesn't that make it really easy to take those phone calls?
It does make it easy.
For people, it's like, I know, I can feel your pain, because no other, I think, art fair director has been in the position of true empathy. And I think it gives you.
I think I do have, I think by nature I have a lot of empathy, but I also think, I look forward to being able to have those phone calls with galleries in advance of selections to really explain the process so that they understand truly how it works. Because I think it is confusing, if you're not really ever given sort of an overview, there's a lot of opacity that one could gather from it. And when you really get sort of talked through the process and how you might be successful, it's a helpful way to approach it, and
Yes, I think the notion of gatekeeping and how the galleries do it and the lack of transparency has been hard for the whole system. I'm not saying that I know a better way, but that part. So I imagine just empathy must help for about an hour for people.
Well, and I think there is also exactly that, but it's also that a lot of times galleries don't know that they can really ask a ton of questions.
So what is it that you're able to tell them about? Let's just talk about Miami Beach, and we'll see if the answer applies to Paris or Hong Kong. What is it that you'd be telling them, like, this is what you should be thinking about when you're trying to make your best application, whether it's from the main fair or one of the other parts of it?
Yeah.
What is it like, kind of a concrete suggestion?
I mean, the best advice I can give is that nobody knows your strengths and your program better than you, right? So when people are curious, like, what do I present, or what approach in terms of the artist roster, these things are very much subjective. There, of course, are going to be, the committee makes all of the decisions.
But is it like, here's my clients, here's the museum shows of my artists, here's how they show around the world? Is it, here's how it relates to America, here's how it relates to Latin America? Is there anything more?
Well, we don't ask for client info, but in terms of, when they submit their proposals, it is, once you're in the gallery sector, the proposal is less in depth year on year. But if you're applying to the project-based sectors for the first time, or the second time, or the third time, whatever time, it is based on the strength of the project itself. It's not based on the history of the gallery, the client list, what you've done to date. It is based on what's at hand and how dynamic and interesting that is. And of course, how it relates to the Americas, how it relates to Miami, the Miami show being being kind of a part of a larger whole, and how it works with the other selections at that time. These are all things that the committee would take into account. And little things like I'm constantly reminding people that the caliber of your renderings, it does matter. If, show details of the work.
If there's a link and you push on it and it doesn't work, that's not good.
There's many applications, and time is spent on all of them, but I would say make it as seamless and as easy as possible on the committee, because they are trying very hard to produce the best show that can be produced.
And in the main gallery section, which is a different kind of thing, what advice do you give to people there? Because that can be make it or break it for people. unfortunately.
Yeah. So we have 31 galleries, I think, new to the main sector this year, and not new to the overall show, but we have 34 galleries that are new to the show, but 31 that are newly in the gallery sector. And I think, it's a bit liberating in a way when they arrive there, because many have done the project-based sectors in the past. Like Isola Flottante, for example, has done Nova and Positions for the past 6 years, and they're now in galleries. And I think having the flexibility to sort of curate and define a cross-section of your full program is exciting. And I would say, again, thinking through the priorities in the program, working very long lead to secure the works that you are interested in bringing, because we know, of course, that our galleries are doing many shows. So we actually started rolling things out for Art Basel Miami Beach 2 months early this year, because we wanted to make very sure that we were front of mind as the year rolls on.
Now, I wonder if you have looked at this yet, or is fair's just opening. I could usually peg how the commercial is going to be by the rental of other spaces in the convention halls. It's like, who's got 50 more pieces, the Picasso, the Cezanne that's sitting there, and how much in demand those spaces are. It's kind of like the behind the scenes thing, and you can tell, wow, hardly anybody wanted those rooms, or there's fewer crates there. What's going on behind the curtains this year?
Funny you should ask. I haven't really discussed this yet, but so we've moved. The floor plan has changed a little bit, right? You've seen we've relocated meridians. The modern section of the gallery sector has a proper entry to the show floor now from the escalator from the VIP lounge. There's we're really trying to think through user experience in depth around the show, and I think the showrooms are a great example of that, because we've now moved them to the more the modern kind of area of the show. And in that, we were able to add a couple of them, and I think that they're doing quite well. Yeah, we're that's something we will continue to elevate, I think, as the years move forward.
Well, a year ago, we sat here with Lauren Toshin, one of the sort of, the grand dames, though she's not that old, yes. Lauren, if you're watching. I use that like in a friendly way of that 20 years from now, she thought Art Basel Miami Beach would be the entire building. Oh, it's like 4 times the size. Can you imagine that as a future here?
Wow, it's interesting. I don't know that that's a future that, okay, so I guess what I would say to that is growth, absolutely. There are, we are interested in different models of growth. However, increasing the footprint of the show would be unlikely, given it's already, a massive scale. So thinking about, growth differently is something that Art Basel is absolutely prioritizing. But the show, I always tell people you're going to have to come back at least 2 days to see the whole thing.
And traditionally, Miami is a one-day kind of 11 a.m. till 6 or 7 kind of thing. Basel traditionally is like at least 2, probably 3.
People come back multiple days in Miami.
But that's starting to happen. Is there a second VIP day?
Oh yeah, always. Yeah. I mean, really, and
didn't used to be.
Capacity of VIP, and really now we see people coming back 3 days. We have a lot of repeat attendance in Miami Beach, and I really think that's sort of the beauty of this show in many ways. Is Miami's a highly there are many transactions that take place, and there are multiple visits. You see people on the weekend, you see people at the start, and they really feel, there's an accessibility to being in Miami Beach, and you can have the morning and you can come back in the afternoon. It's a pretty easygoing atmosphere.
So to wind up, it's like trying to understand the Art Basel brand, and then you have 4 sort of mini brands, maybe 5 in the future, though I'm not so sure of that. It's like, how do you see, do you see them in that way, that there's like an Art Basel Miami Beach brand versus Basel, to use that silly term?
I mean, sure. I think all of the shows are inherently reflective of their locations and their regions. Yeah, I definitely do.
So I know you have to get back on the floor. One last question. What did you buy for yourself so far?
Well, I haven't entered into the buying moment, but if I get there, I will absolutely let you know.
Let us know. Some people say, well, it wouldn't be fair, the other 300, but if you need like an art advisor to help you on the down low, I can recommend a couple for that.
So much.
Bridget, thank you for being here on such an important day, and
thank you for
congratulations
thank you
on this event. So thanks once again to BitGo for sponsoring this edition, the Baer Faxt Live. Again, this is where it all started. Founded in 2013, BitGo is the largest independent digital asset custodian in the world. Sorry, Justin Sun, you should pay attention to them. Securing approximately 20% of all on-chain Bitcoin transactions by value, and that includes bananas.